Today I have a very special guest who joins us from ISKCON. My hypothesis is that we will talk about consciousness, we will talk about happiness, we will talk about just how to make human life even better than what it is supposed to be.
Life is meant to throw challenges, and at every age there will be a different challenge. Now, when you're 8-year-old, your challenge will be, will my parents get me PS5? Will my parents get me certain video games? Will my parents allow me to watch YouTube certain hours? And the same intensity of challenge will move to the next stage as age passes. Do not deviate from what you're supposed to do with what all offers life gives you in terms of temptations.
Be selfless. These were the two words that our guest today uttered to me when, in an audience of about 100 people, I asked him that we moved to this new country called Australia after 38 years of living in India, and how do I build new connections, because building new connections is really hard. And then this guest from the stage said these two words: be selfless. Welcome to another episode of the IgnitedNeurons Podcast. Today I have a very special guest who joins us from ISKCON. Arjun Prabhu is a monk at ISKCON Australia in Melbourne, and today my hypothesis is that we will talk about consciousness, we will talk about happiness, we will talk about just how to make human life even better than what it is supposed to be. Welcome to the conversation, Arjun Prabhu. Look forward to having this chat with you.
Hare Krishna, Utkarsh. It's just so nice to be here with you.
Absolutely, Hare Krishna, and I. That moment when you said those two words to me, I think it was very special because, and I've contemplated upon that these two words, be selfless, again and again, with myself, with my wife. But being selfless is so hard. So today we'll definitely touch upon that too. But as we start all our podcasts, we start with this question that if that 8-year-old little boy growing wherever he was at 8 years old, if that little boy were to come to you right now and have a conversation, what kind of a conversation would emerge?
That's an interesting question. I'll have that conversation in two parts. First, I would like to have a conversation with that 8-year-old boy and understanding him and what sort of nature that 8-year-old boy has. I would like to have the second part of conversation with the parents as well. I'll not just hold on myself to the 8-year-old boy, because still there are 3 to 4 years of amazing transformation or I would say character building is left in that boy, which parents can really do very well. That's why I said I'll do both ways.
That's very interesting. I'm thinking about it. It's 33 episodes now. So you want to talk to that 8-year-old boy and then also to the parents. Let's do this conversation in two parts then. So what kind of a conversation will happen between the 8-year-old and your current self?
So my first approach to that 8-year-old boy would be have a very, very warm, friendly conversation, because I want him to open up to me. You know how we are assuming that this particular kid is not very easy to reveal his heart or her heart. And then is that 8-year-old boy me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes, that is your younger self. So 8-year-old.
Then it's much a little bit easier. So yeah, and I definitely want to speak to the parents.
Let's talk about both of them. Let's so what were those memories at 8 years old, or what were those experiences at 8-year-old that you would like to kind of have this conversation about?
Yes, two or three aspects that straight away comes to my mind. As first is there were no worries at all. You know how Australia is the land of no worries. At least not the land of no worries. We use those terms there. Oh, somehow the worry is everywhere, very heavily well spread around. But that particular boy who was genuinely enjoying life, completely dependent on what parents provide him, completely oblivious to what challenges are waiting for him in the teens to begin with. And when hormones are going to hit him hard, and then the world seems upside down, and then the same girls which he happily plays with or fight with, the whole vision changes towards her. I would just really tell him, just utilize this time, because there is something very different coming, waiting for you, ahead of you. That's one very base level conversation we'll have. But second, which very serious conversation I want to have with this 8-year-old boy, which is me, is there's 2 or 3 certain values I want to be instilled in me when I was 8 years old. And the first value is never take things for granted, especially never take people for granted. Because if we cannot appreciate the sacrifice of people who are building our lives, the world will not appreciate our tiny sacrifices. If we do not have the attitude of gratitude, then an ungrateful person is a great fool if he is not grateful. And if that 8 year old boy, which I think it may be too much of philosophy for an 8 year old boy, but there are ways to do it. That's why I want to speak to the parents for that matter. That in their tiny ways, I would like my parents to do their part even little differently. Where that 8 year old boy would really inculcate these qualities of being very grateful to whatever life is offering, people are offering, family is offering, and never take things for granted. Never take people for granted, because what goes around comes around. If sacrifices are appreciated, then your sacrifices will be appreciated too. And the last thing which I would really like to share, or would like to speak to this 8 year old boy, would be life is meant to throw challenges, and at every age it'll be a different challenge. Now, when you're 8 year old, your challenge will be, will my parents get me PS5? Will my parents get me certain video games? Will my parents allow me to watch YouTube for certain hours? And the same intensity of challenge will move to the next stage, where as age passes, do not deviate from what you're supposed to do with what all offers life gives you in terms of temptations. And then I will take these three aspects and I'll reach out to the parents. And I would say, you have done an amazing job with your son from till now. Can we focus a little bit more on these three issues?
Wow. I need to take a moment. There's so much wisdom in there. So the phrase that you started with, no worries, our audience in Australia would really resonate with that, because I came here 3 years ago. No worries was not a commonly used phrase back home in India. But here,
Yes.
whatever you do, you send a wrong email, no worries. You want a cup of coffee, no worries. You want anything, the answer is those two words, no worries. And then what's interesting is what you're saying, the three things. You can either be grateful or grateful. Then you spoke about not taking anything and anyone for granted, and then having this conversation with the parents also, where there'll be new challenges at every level, how you maneuver those and navigate those challenges and not get into temptation. I think that's what you spoke about.
Yes.
But Prabhuji, it's really hard because temptations are really strong. We feel that being grateful is just something that looks good, but we still don't do it. And for granted, I'd love for you to double click on these things for me, because I was
Yes.
also seeing you get a little bit almost emotional while you were talking about taking people for granted.
So the reason I mentioned this is, now more in my spiritual journey, I'm trying to deal with a lot of people from different walks of life, and more we try to help people in their journey, and we see how much it matters to them if someone makes a tiny sacrifice. And in this case, I'm talking about us making some sacrifice for their well-being. And when we are taken for granted, it hurts the most. But because we are trying to do it selflessly to our best of capacity, then we move on. But I was contemplating on it the other day that, there are many world scriptures, including Bible or even in Vedic system, even in Sanatan Dharma. Very, very pure common understanding is, you deal with people the way you want to be dealt with.
Absolutely.
Right? Huh? Treat your neighbor as yourself. There's one of the 10 commandments also, right? And I personally feel that if I feel I'm trying and I'm walking on spiritual path from almost 2 decades, and I feel discouraged when we are taken for granted or misused, even we're trying to do our best to help the other person. What about those who I have taken for granted over the years and not appreciated their sacrifices? That's why I thought, to me as 8 year old, I want this quality to be there for sure. That it should not take me a very long spiritual journey to understand this very important aspect. I want me to be very efficiently dealing with people's emotions from very early on. I'll tell you something very interesting. Most of the people are working very hard in this day and age to make money. And then money, which is an important ingredient to have a peaceful life, has turned into all in all. So I'm not against money for sure, because even to run a spiritual institution, resources are required. To run a family, you need resources. But let's take a simple example. Let's compare our life to an amazing buffet you go your family to enjoy with. And you enter that place and you see, oh, I'll take an Indian cuisine for the matter, right? You see amazing naan rotis. You see very fragrant rice there. You see, oh, there is nice curry there. And there's lentil soup. And there is amazing salad. Now, all those ingredients to be very tasty, salt is very essential, right? Salt is a very essential ingredient to make everything very tasteful. So, scripture says, or this ancient Vedic wisdom says, that salt is like that ingredient, which is giving taste to it. Similarly, money or resources are exactly like those ingredients which makes life very tasteful. But our issue is, imagine you go to a buffet and your curry is not made of vegetables, it's made of salt. Just think about, instead of fragrant rice, you just have salt. Instead of dal soup, lentil soup, you just have salt. Instead of salad, you just have salt. So when you make something which is necessary, which gives taste to life, which brings value to life, as all in all, life starts turning bitter. And that's why we as people, as human beings who are very emotionally motivated, even to do projects at work, we have a natural need to love someone and to be loved by someone. It's a natural need to love someone and to be loved by someone. And if that is not fulfilled to the root, life will not offer you the happiness you're really trying to extract it from. And you may assume, and then your check post may change, may shift, and you may continue to reach out and gain and really, I would say, acquire more and more sources of getting salt, but it'll not be tasteful. It will not be tasteful. So that's why appreciating people's sacrifice, dealing with people's emotions, offering that loving affection, receiving it accordingly, being grateful to people, it's a very important ingredient for a tasteful life.
Beautiful. There's more to the buffet than just salt. And what you're saying very rightly so is that the focus on salt is too much. And you just put maybe an extra couple of spoons of salt into your lentil curry or to whatever you're having, that turns bitter. So with this focus on money/salt that we are having, it is adding bitterness to our life.
I did a math calculation the other day. Should I share it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know how it's a simplistic one, not a complicated one. So you know how we have 24 hours a day,
Yes.
and then we work 8 to 9 hours a day, and it takes maybe, if someone is going to work, it takes maybe a couple of hours going back and forth, commuting to work and coming back home. So it almost 11 hours of the day is gone. Then a healthy person should sleep 7 hours minimum, and some people sleep more. So let's assume 7 hours. So 18 hours are gone. And then to get ready in the morning, just to clean up yourself and then cook for the day and eat also, to take care of your basic bodily needs, I would take very less hours, but let's say at least take 2 hours to do all this throughout the day. That means we are talking about 20 hours of your day is gone. And what? In doing 3 things: go to work, sleep, and take care of your very basic bodily needs.
Correct.
Now you're left with 4 hours. In those 4 hours, suppose someone is a family man, that person has to take care of one's own mental well-being, one's own physical well-being. You have to take care of your family's well-being. You have to spend time with your spouse, with your children, quality time. Then you have to deal with your own family back home, or if you have family here in Australia, and your in-laws' family and your extended family. Then you have friends here who will take your time, and you need them as well. Then you have social media commitments. All right?
Correct.
Then you have emergencies.
Yeah.
Then you have favorite sport networks that you want to follow. You follow some celebrities, you follow this, you follow that. Then you follow news. And then you have society commitments, if some people may have some community commitments. And then if a person is interested, he wants to have some spiritual inclinations and want to have some spiritual practices. Do you think this? Can you visualize how much you have to fit in those 4 hours? And what does the person decides? I'll do overtime. I'll work overtime, and all that is squeezed out from that 4 hours. And then we ask this question: why there is an imbalance? Why am I stressed out? Where is there why so much anxiety? Why sometimes I feel depressed? Why my relationships are not going through the way it should go? Why my mental health, my physical health is not at par? On and on and on and on and on. This is the very simple maths, but this is misjudgment or extra usage of salt, I feel.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you've very beautifully defined the problem statement, right? And this was on my mind that I'll talk to you, that we look at the data and we look at people around us. You see less and less people happy, but wanting more and more. You see
Yeah.
less and less people satisfied with life, but doing more and more. You see suicide rates high, you see mental health challenges high, you see everything that it seems to us that we are progressing in some aspects of humanity, but in the most basic and critical and important aspects, we are deteriorating very quickly. But then the math that you just presented to us, it seems like that's the norm. Someone who's like me, 40 years old, if they have to sustain their mortgage and sustain their life and sustain their relationships and everything, the math doesn't math for me.
That's why I said it's simple maths. There are many nuances to it, but isn't it an eye opener, maths? Does it not push you to think that is there something really wrong I'm doing? Is there something better I can do? Is there something more tangible I can do to make my life a little bit better? Maybe I can squeeze out half an hour more for my own well-being so that I can offer it back better, who matters to me more. So that's why I gave this math, so that it makes people think that,
Yeah. And even before we go deep into the math, and I think we should talk about this math, I think this is a good foundation to the conversation. But the challenge is, I think very few people even pause and ask the question, because they get, and we can call it the rat race or whatever we want to, they get into this very vicious cycle where it seems that that's the cycle. You end your Friday at a 6 p.m. after work, and then you're like elevated to your social connections for the next 2 days or something like that. And then by Monday morning, you're, oh, Monday's here again. So people don't pause and ask a question to improve and modify the cycle. But then what's your solution? Like, you've given us the equation, but how do we solve the equation? How do we make people happier and more satisfied with their lives?
yeah, I think that poor little 8-year-old kid, let him wait. We can get into some better discussions.
No, no, the
Because of him, we are talking about the kudos.
yeah. That's why we love this question, right? Throws us in the deep end. But there are many 30-year-olds and 25-year-olds and 47-year-olds, Prabhuji, who are asking this question. So how do we help them? Should we ask them to sleep less?
No, not at all, because it's a very important ingredient. It's a very, very important ingredient for your own well-being. Society is less satisfied, and because people have lost this very important ingredient, which is called satisfaction, that's why the race is on. So commonly this word is used, rat race, rat race. But what is it? Rat race is basically a direction in which the whole world is moving to, not thinking is there a way out. Or it's called, even in a herd of sheep moving in one direction, is we call it bhed chal,
Yeah.
moving in one direction, where this very important question is not asked by anyone. Where am I coming from? Where am I going? What is the purpose of life? What is life? I'll speak something little strong if I'm allowed. This is
Absolutely.
some classic Bhagavad Gītā, but very, very essential to our conversation right now. And I'll use example, which is, suppose my father passes away and I'm crying, oh, my father passed away. Oh, I'm crying, oh, my father passed away. And I'm really heartbroken and I'm crying. And then suddenly you come in front of me and you say, hey, why are you crying? Your father is lying in front of you. Whom are you crying for? I said, no, my father passed away. I said, but you say, come on, Arjun, he's lying in front of you. Whom are you crying for? Oh, my father left me. Who has left you? He's right in front of you. No, my father left me. Who left me? Is a question. What's missing from that same person I loved so much that I'm so morose and so much in sorrow? And now, from last 40 years, whom I thought is my father, I don't even want that person around me. I want the ceremonies of cremation and whatever people do in their own culture to happen soon. But I'm still missing something. What is it? What am I missing? Because whom I considered my father as, I don't want him. But what's missing? I never met him. So my 40 years passed and I never met my father. I never had that connection with that life within my father. And that happens with all the relationships. And that's exactly what we do to ourselves also, that we do not go deeper, stop, pause, rethink, revisit our lives and talk to ourselves. Who am I? Where am I coming from? Where am I going? If I'm nothing more than this body, what we see around, then why worry anyways? Because I'm a bunch of chemicals.
Correct.
Then why worry about some chemicals being lost and some chemicals being gained? Why worry if someone passes away? Because we are not this bunch of chemicals. We are life within this. How can a person ever come to terms with purpose of life if they don't understand life? It's a very deep philosophical questions many Vedas have asked. Many Upanishads, many scriptures have very pointedly asked, do you understand what is life? Do you understand what is source of life? Then how can you find purpose of life? You know, there is a term called identity crisis. So many people, they go through a phase in their life where they have identity crisis. But who am I anyways? All right. Because my designations will keep changing. All right. So that the deeper me, if not explored, then the outer me will constantly be on search for happiness. And the journey will be continued in searching happiness. And the answer will be, oh, you know why I'm not happy? Because I only have 3 investment properties. That guy seems to be happy because he has 5. So maybe that's the way to go. And then we never ask this question that, oh, this guy who has 5 investment properties is thinking exactly the same, looking towards the guy who has 7. This is called rat race.
Yeah.
And if one wants to cut through this rat race, the most important fundamental question should be, who am I? What is life? Sorry, it went a little more philosophical.
No, but it was
I had to bring it to that point.
It was necessary, and it's a question that I have been lucky and blessed by parents, environment, and whatever supported this question. This quest started for me personally, and I'm going into a very personal terrain here. When I was about 18 years old, and I finished school, and with my friends, I had gone to a T-shirt shop in Connaught Place in Delhi, and they were like those slogan T-shirts which were very cool at that time in India. And the one T-shirt that I loved and I picked up, it said in Hindi, "मैं कौन हूँ?" 7, 8 times on that T-shirt, and I picked that up and I wore that for like many years because it was my favorite T-shirt. And I've started to then reflect on this idea: who am I, and what is my life, and where is it going? And I think these deeper questions, they might not have the right answer because there's no right or wrong answer here. So my answer will be very different from yours and will be very different from the other 8 billion on the planet. And so if we were to at least get onto this pursuit of answering this question, my hypothesis is that we will end up in a better place than when we are looking at others and comparing their answer to ours. Would you agree?
Yes. Yes, and that's where partly to add on to what you said, that's where the competition is always with us to make myself better version of who I am than having to compete with others, because rat race forces you to compete with others. A deeper spiritual reflection forces you to compete with your own self, because the journey is yours, not someone else's. And because it's your own journey, naturally you have to upgrade yourself. So for a person who is fighting in this world to make a mark, to leave a very powerful footprint behind, this is very essential that they must conclude certain aspects of life which have deeper spiritual reflections.
Yeah.
And of course, there are many ways to do it. So, but it should happen. Very important ingredient.
We'll not go there yet because I want people to really understand where is this conversation coming from, because it's a deeper conversation, but we will get to that before we end our conversation. And in my notes, I have put it in a block that how do you really do, and would it be okay for me to say we're not here saying we've not used, we're using the word spiritual, which relates to spirit, which relates to whether you are in India, in Australia, in Afghanistan, in America, in Europe, wherever you are, your spirit still needs that deep spiritual work.
Yes, perfect. And that's the difference between, at least the way it is understood now, between religion and spiritual, because the way even the term is used, or the way even certain aspects of religion are used, it basically boxes you. It does not allow you to see beyond what the creation or the universe can offer. Whereas spirituality is, the purpose of spirituality is to unbox. So many people say, "Oh no, I cannot be spiritual, or it limits me." But what is materialism doing anyways? What is, it's forcing you to walk in certain direction.
Yeah.
So that's why spirituality is a natural way of living which allows you to 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 explore life unconditionally.
We got to pause on that. Spirituality is a natural way of living which allows you to
Explore life unconditionally. Whereas if you see materialism, or I like to call it as hedonistic lifestyle. The hedonistic mantra is earn, buy, consume, die. And then generation after generation, a very proud parent gives that same mantra to the next generation. My dear son, my dear daughter, the goal of life is earn, buy, consume, die. And you can add your own flavors based on time, place, and circumstances. I used to play video games in which there were Mario, Contra. You can do PS5. But what is the goal? Earn, buy, consume, die. Because life has nothing deeper to it.
Oh.
This is a rat race.
Yeah.
Where I call it as the hedonistic treadmill. Because you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
You're just there. But it appears that, wow, I'm such an amazing consumer. Wow, I can earn, buy, I can consume, and then that's it.
Yeah. And you'll keep running and you'll keep running and you'll die.
And you'll not go anywhere. You're there. That's why it's treadmill.
Correct. Well, let's go 20 years back, because you said before your spiritual journey started and you've spoken about your spiritual journey. Help me understand, because it could be a one-day decision, it could be a long-term decision. What prompted you? What was that pre-Arjun? And what prompted that Arjun to tip over and become a monk? Because it's a big decision. It's a big decision.
Yes. So, in what I can remember is from when I was 16 or 17, a very natural inclination towards exploring spirituality started, where I started asking questions. I grew up in a middle class, so to call religious family, a business middle class religious family. But I would never call myself as very religious. I would just move along with my parents. Okay, let's go there. Okay, let's go there. And for me, it was more of a tourist spirit where I would go to holy places with them and whatever. But then when I was 16 or 17, something very interesting happened in my life, that my father hit rock bottom in his business, and he hit bankruptcy from a very successful business to a really rock bottom. And that triggered a lot of questions. And when I was 19, that's where somehow I came in contact with the teachings of Bhagavad Gītā. I was actually coming to Australia. My whole visa process had done. Everything was done. Applications were done. And then my mother was worried that I should be a little bit more saner than what I was before I leave India, before I leave the I would say the CCTV of my parents, the cameras and the whole control of my parents to my own personal life. So she, without even telling me, enrolled me for a Bhagavad Gītā session, which was a 7-day session, a summary of Gita. And first day only I knew this is what I want to do, because I just started getting my questions answered straight on. And after 7 days, I remember talking to myself that I found what I want to do. There's a lot of clarity. I don't have any more questions to argue for now, because I was asking a lot of questions. Yeah, I'll give you an idea on that. 10:30, if the session finishes in the night, including dinner, I have never even once gone home before 2 a.m. because for next 3-4 hours, I would just ask questions and someone was kindly answering me. And that was intellectually really satisfying me. So that's how the journey started. And then, of course, I came here, then I studied, then I was working for almost 5 or 6 years. In 2013, I decided that I want to try this life of a monk, at least for 1 year. Let's see how it is. Let's see how it is to live more for others than yourself. Let's see. I wanted to try for 1 year. I was really, really keen on living a life in which it's less for you and more for others. I really wanted to taste it once. So somehow, by God's grace, it's continuing. So that's the synopsis of how it started and where I am right now.
And the day it happened, when you in a way are initiated into this moment, or maybe even when you told your parents or your friends or where you were working, if I was a fly on the wall and you're having this conversation with your parents, what kind of a conversation was that?
I mean, the day I decided to become a monk, or monk,
The day
right?
you decided to become monk.
Yes. First, I spoke to my father, actually, because I had to speak to them separately to get the nod in.
Yeah.
My father very kindly agreed straight away on the spot. He said, okay, try for 1 year. Go for it. My mother was a little worried, and she had genuine reasons, because as parents, as a parent, you will understand, appreciate it also now. You really want two things from your loved ones, especially your dependents, your children. They should be with you. Their relationship with you should actually get better, or at least it should maintain the way it is. And second, your children, your dependents, should not spoil their life. So these were the two major concerns my mother had, which took a couple of years for her to understand that my relationship with her is very nice till now, and I was not wasting my life. So now she appreciates. But initially, it was not that easy. So if you were a fly on the wall and I'm speaking to you, something very interesting happened in my own thinking, what I was going through. I told myself, see, I am in Australia.
Mm.
Maximum what will happen after 1 year? My bank balance, what it is now, will be delayed by 1 year. Right? If I have to become a millionaire, for example, I'll be a millionaire 1 year later. But if I miss this opportunity now, then I will regret it for my whole life. So let me become a millionaire a year later and let me try this.
Yeah. Love it. I love it. This word, I think, why live a life with regrets? At least go for it. And what I
Yes.
feel is like, if you're not hurting anyone, if you're not making it difficult for someone else by taking some actions which you feel are true to who you are, then it's worth it. It's worth the journey.
Yeah. If you're not happy, people around you will not be happy.
Correct. Correct. But let's go back then, because people still don't understand where does their happiness lie. And so what I want the next, say, 10-15 minutes for our conversation to go towards is, so we spoke about the deep spiritual work, and we spoke about the earn, buy, consume, and die cycle.
Yes.
And what my understanding right now is that it would be amazing for our listeners, or for anyone else for that matter, to achieve freedom from this cycle,
Mm.
which right now they don't know how that freedom will look like.
Yeah.
So what's your understanding? If we achieve freedom, what does that look like? And then we can go into the deep spiritual work.
So, for a person who wants to cut through this hedonism, this very stale life, which may appear very glittery to begin with, but it's like a deep swamp which just consumes you, and there is no way to look out. And that's what rat race is. Just imagine, just think about it. Let's visualize something. You are running a race, and there are millions of people on that same street running with you, and only thing you can see is everyone is going in one direction. And suddenly, a paper falls in front of you which says, "Hey, you are part of rat race. What are you doing? Can you think something different about life? Do you know where you're coming from? Do you know where you're going? Do you know what your purpose is?" The pressure on that person is so intense to turn back and run the other way because millions are running in one direction. To become that odd one out is so way high. And I really, really appreciate and I really, really empathize what people go through when they have to change their ways of certain lifestyle. My only and only suggestion will be please work on who is around you. In Bhagavad Gītā, Lord Krishna says in second chapter, Sangat sanjayate kaman. Your association develops your desires. You become whom you associate with. Like one of my friends says, you just tell me your 5 friends and I tell your future. Yeah. So in our network of 5 very close friends, if we can have at least 1 or 2, if you're very lucky, you can have all 5. But if you're bare minimum lucky, have 1 or 2 which are not interested in this rat race, which are a little spiritual in their search. Their search for happiness takes them to a spiritual route, via spiritual route. If we have someone in our very close connections like that, it'll force you to think like about life a little deeper, a little different. You know how powerful association is. Just a funny example, if you've traveled through metros or train, even in Melbourne on very busy hours, you don't experience that. You have to go to Delhi or Mumbai, or uh, on a very extreme busy hours where you have to push people to go in.
Yeah.
The power of association is that if you are smart enough on very busy hours, if you know where to stand, the crowd only takes you inside. And if you're smart enough and you know where to stand and your stop is coming, the crowd only will take you out.
Yeah.
So where do you place yourself in what association? When I say association, I mean what sort of mindset around you? Birds of same feather flock together, right?
Yeah.
But who are these birds? And where are you want to flock to? What do you want to achieve? Do you have deeper questions in life? If you have people around you who also are inclined towards a lifestyle like that. And that amazing transformation happens from there. Because when millions are running in one direction and suddenly 10 of you decide, no, let's change it, it's easier than one person deciding.
Right. Love it.
And that's the power of communities.
Mm.
That's the power of communities. Communities help you change course of life for better directions.
Let's take a moment.
Yeah.
Because I understand what that freedom will do to someone, and why I feel I understand that, Arjun Prabhu, is my dad used to watch Mahabharata and Krishna during growing years. I used to be in a profession being a physiotherapist where I was taking care of the elderly, and so they were all spiritually inclined, because that's another hypothesis that we must break, which we'll have a second episode on, that people feel that let me get to my 60s and then I'll be spiritual. And which I feel like, what if, sir, you die by then? What if, ma'am, you die by then? And what if you don't even have the energy? Why can't you start to be spiritual from a young age and continue to do your karma, right? Continue to do what your job is, whatever that might look like. But just be present to this possibility that you can break the cycle. And so that has allowed me to have choices and have the freedom to choose the path that I want to be on.
Mhm.
But what you spoke about, like creating associations, I think that's extremely powerful. Warren Buffett has this exact same saying. So I think he captured it from the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gītā, where he's it is absolutely possible, where he says that the people who you surround with, that's who you become. We see that a box of strawberries, if one gets fungus on it, the rest of it also goes away as you take one out. And so it's the mindset, it's the people that you are with that starts to decide. And what you're saying, 10 people changing the direction is much easier than one person changing. What is one spiritual practice, or what is one practice? Let me even make it easier for our listeners. What is one practice that you would recommend, which someone who's listening to this right now can start with to put them on the path of this deep spiritual work? And the vessel has to be ready to do deep work, but what can be like an initiation point?
What triggered for me was knowledge. And I'll recommend that same thing only. No sentiments, no emotional dramas, no fancy things that I saw in the temple or anywhere else. For me, when I was intellectually convinced, I was amazed by the clarity Bhagavad Gītā had. I couldn't believe how many answers on what level Bhagavad Gītā could answer would really help me with. When I reflect back what 20 years before I had questions and what Bhagavad Gītā was able to answer, and those who were helping me, mentoring me, were able to answer using Bhagavad Gītā, is phenomenal, actually. So my one suggestion to people will be at least 15 to 20 minutes a day. Dive deep into learning Bhagavad Gītā or books which are basically of same stature.
Yeah.
Because it'll create a niche within you to think differently than what the consumeristic society offers you. And I'll tell you why.
Go ahead.
The way how consumeristic society offers you. And I'll tell you why, because all of us, and no one is spared from this, all of us are product of someone's propaganda. All of us are products of someone else's propaganda. The brands we choose, the hairstyles we have, the brand of specs we choose, the watches we choose, what sort of ingredients we use, what sort of chai, this, that, everything someone else's creates a propaganda. Oh, chia seeds are in. Okay, let's get chia seeds. Okay, quinoa is in. Okay, let's do this. And if we are product of someone else's propaganda, why can't we have a spiritual propaganda also shaping our lives?
Love it. Love it.
And marketing companies understand it very well, that people are products of propaganda, and let's make it a very good propaganda so that people are forced to buy into it. Imagine, now iPhone 17 Pro is just nearby coming in the market. And you see an ad and it promises you'll be happy. This guy will never question that, come on, man, when the 16 Pro ad came, were they lying? Because they said the same thing that time also, right? And I purchased it. Now with 17 Pro, they're making the same statement. This is called propaganda. So you know how politics, when we hear it, has a very negative connotation to it. Similarly, the word propaganda has negative connotation to it. But the fact is, it should not have. Because even politics can be good. Even propaganda can be used rightly for our own benefit. So let's have deeper knowledge. Let deeper knowledge create propaganda for us.
Yeah.
Because we are product of someone else's propaganda for sure.
100%. And so what I'll promise right now, our listeners, is that we will do a part 2 of this conversation, because my thirst for knowledge is not satiated till now. And so maybe we'll do like a longer episode where I would love for us to delve it on each chapter of the Bhagavad Gītā, because things like non-attachment, things like how to make sure that you stay on your karma yoga or action, how to make sure that you act without the expectation of the results, how to make sure that there are endless lessons. Like I can even count, like I'll need 15 more minutes to count like 18 lessons after the Bhagavad Gītā. But so we will absolutely have that conversation. But this deep conversation we've had, this very actionable. Now, as we move towards the end, we ask this question of our guest, that if now, moving forward a few decades, if that 80-year-old wise man were to come back to you right now and give you one piece of advice. And so Arjun from 80 years old comes to you and gives you one advice. What would that advice be?
Okay, that's interesting one. What strikes me straight away is love more unconditionally and be more selfless, because there is something amazing waiting for you if you do it properly now. And don't hold on to it. Don't hold on to your own agendas. Be more unconditional in offering love and be more selfless. Because that 80-year-old can see things closer. He's towards the closure, which I am not. Maybe I am, but I don't know. But yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, we started the episode with being selfless, and we ended on being selfless and loving unconditionally. For our listeners who are listening to this on podcast, like and comment and share with someone who you feel would value. If you have someone in your network who has the mindset that pushes you to become a better version of yourself, then send this to them. If you're on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed it. Put in the comments what is one thing that you gained from this episode that will help you, because your being selfless and subscribing to the channel will help us and getting more deeper conversations here. But Arjun Prabhu, thank you so much for being here. I know we had some technical glitches before we started, but this conversation was worth the wait. And I look forward to being in the same room with you in person and recording that massive episode where we put out all the lessons from the Gita to the world outside.
Amazing work you're doing, Utkarsh. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
And it's of some value to you and your listeners.
100%. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Ignite Neurons podcast. If you found value in this, here's what I recommend. Take out a paper or a diary and just put down one thing that you can change about your life because you listen to this podcast. I'd really appreciate if you could share that in the comments below, because I'd love to see how it's impacting you or not. If you're on YouTube and watching this, then like, share and subscribe, and please make this wisdom go viral. And if you're someone who loves your podcast on the go, then Spotify and Apple Podcasts are your go-to places, or wherever you're listening to this, just like, share it with a friend, and leave a comment, because I'd love to engage, love to have a conversation with you. Until next time, till we meet again, keep those neurons ignited, stay curious, keep learning, be someone who embraces a growth mindset, and I look forward to seeing you very soon.